Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter for boxing related tweets, or you can subscribe to the channel and get a notification whenever we upload a new video. Wow, man. Anthony Joshua, take a bow, son. That was the best performance I have ever seen from Anthony Joshua. That was fantastic. Now, it's had some mixed reviews, which I'm really surprised about, so let's talk about it. First and foremost, we'll start off with the preview video. A lot of the things I said would happen in the preview video did happen. There were a couple of things that surprised me, so we'll talk about all of it. First and foremost, as I explained in the preview video, Kubrat Pulev does have this tendency to have a high guard with one hand forward, one hand back, one to protect from a jab, one to shoot the jab off from there. And he's susceptible as a result to uppercuts. If you get him back enough, if he retreats enough where there's nowhere left for him to go, and you get him at mid to close range, his only form of defense is to tie up. He doesn't really fight inside, but he can get his right hand free on the inside and throw these sort of hooking shots where he's lifting the elbow. Anthony Joshua dealt with that very well. Every time Pulev tried that, he would move in the clinch, he would duck to his own right, and it would just take the power off of the shots. But when he was getting Kubrat Pulev moving back and there was nowhere left for Pulev to go, Anthony Joshua started to rip that uppercut. And the uppercut that dropped Pulev was a thing of beauty. He threw a jab, he dipped low as though he was going to throw a hook, came up through the middle with an uppercut, landed the uppercut, pivoted off to the side in one movement, threw a second uppercut underneath the guard because Pulev had assumed possibly that a hook was coming through or potentially a straight right hand, and his hands came close. So he ate the first jab. Joshua came to the side of him and he threw another uppercut through the hook, through the guard. Pulev tried to hold on to him. Joshua pushed him off, manhandled him, being physical when he has to be physical, and threw another uppercut when Pulev was on his way down. Just terrific stuff from Anthony Joshua. There was a lot of that stuff that we saw, but you know what impressed me the most? It was the jab. The jab of Anthony Joshua early in this fight. So, you know, in the preview, this is what surprised me. In the preview, we spoke about the fact that Pulev likes to get his lead hand often in between the guard of an opponent and shoot in there, just inside the right hand of the opponent. And when you saw them first come to the middle of the ring, you saw what they were what I was talking about how he's trying to engage both hands. So he's cutting off pathways for AJ. AJ was taking these little movements around the ring, just as he was moving, lining up that left hand and popping it. And it was such a beautiful thing. And it got me, when AJ was coming down to the ring, obviously I know he comes down to the White Stripes tune, oh, Anthony Joshua. And I know that Golovkin comes down to that. But then when he came into the ring, he did that little bow that Golovkin does, where he turns to the corners, to the sides, and he does the four bows. And I said to the person I was watching it with, he's going to come out here and he's been looking at Golovkin. He's going to look to cut off the ring. He's expecting movement from Pulev. I reckon he's been studying Golovkin. Now, turns out, post-fight, he mentioned Larry Holmes about that jab. So it probably wasn't Golovkin, but there is something that Golovkin does when it comes to the jab. So I won't be surprised if he's looked at Golovkin a little bit. Lee Weil spoke about this recently as well. And I was talking to my brother about this when was it, a week ago? When was the Dubois fight? A couple of days after the Dubois fight, we were talking about how Joe Joyce was throwing his jab and how he would have his arms up and from a high position, and he's not shooting the jab. He's almost letting gravity do the work and fall into the jab. I've got this stuff in my way, so I can't really show you what I'm talking about. But it was a method of throwing the jab where he was targeting the eye. Because basically my brother was asking, what do you reckon? Do you reckon people are going to be able to target that eye in future? Or is he going to find ways to protect it and stuff like that? And we were discussing it, how he could go about that. And we started talking about the different types of jabs that exist among fighters. And we spoke about Paulie Malignaggi, who long-time subscribers will know I'm a huge fan of. We spoke about Canelo. There are jabs that will catch you on the bottom of the chin and lift your head up. An up jab, which almost acts like an uppercut. It's a power shot. You'll have other jabs that will target your nose and your eyes. They're just to stop you, just something to keep in your eyes, stop you seeing, look to cut up your eyes, bruise up your eyes, bleed up your nose. If someone can break your nose in a fight, you're swallowing blood, it'll stop it, affects your breathing. There are different types of jabs. There are power jabs to get you out of trouble if your back's up against a rope, or a real jab where you're sort of pushing off and pushing through the target like Fury was throwing against Deontay Wilder. There's the jab that Fury throws where it's almost like a backhand, and that's just to set other things up, and it's to vary the power of shots. So sometimes he'll throw a soft jab, another soft jab because he's setting up a power shot, or he'll throw a soft jab followed by a hard jab, and it's almost like a feint with a jab. In other words, there's a lot of misdirection going on. Well, with Gennady Golovkin, this is what Lee Weil spoke about. This is the bit that he mentioned. And we spoke about it with my brother, like I said. Lee Weil said it's the forehead. I said to my brother it's in between the eyes. He tends to target the upper part of the head. Now, whether it's the forehead or this sort of area here, makes no difference. The point is, the reason Golovkin does this is for head control, essentially through a jab. Because if you're getting caught on the top of the head and your head's moving back every time you're getting caught, you can't move forward. And we were talking about this in the sense that Golovkin is a master of head control. He does it in a variety of ways. If you go and watch the Proxer fight, for instance, he's using his hands to hold. He'll hold and then punch. AJ was doing a lot of that tonight. There was another thing that Golovkin does. If he's held, one of the things he does is that, let's say you've got underhooks in his arms, so you've got your arms underneath his armpits, and you're holding his arms. You've got them above the elbow. If you grab someone below the elbow with underhooks, they're just going to pull straight out. If it's above the elbow, you can lock. What he'll do is put his forehead on your chest, and he'll push your head back, so almost just at the bottom of your chin, push your head back, and then tiptoe almost to lift your arms to create a bit of a space, and then drop and pull out. And it's a way of breaking the hold, but he's essentially pushing your head back. Even there's head control. Head control is a massive part of Golovkin's game, and we know he's got one of the best jabs in the entire sport. Not just accuracy, but a thudding, powerful jab. And he doesn't really bust up your nose or mouth with it. I'm sure he does mix that in, of course, but a lot of the times he's aiming for the sort of top of the nose or the forehead, and it is to control that head. And we saw Anthony Joshua today with those jabs. A lot of the times it was moving towards the face, but because he had the height advantage, a lot of times it was snapping Pulev's head back, and he couldn't enter. It was making him unable to get close enough to be able to do what he tends to do. There was power there too. So it's making him doubt. And also, when I did the Mike Tyson video about Anthony Joshua, a recent video, please go back and check that out, I was explaining how I believe that Mike Tyson was just trying to promote his fight. I don't believe he thinks that AJ telegraphs his punches. Well, go watch that jab in the first 3 rounds and watch how surprised Pulev is every time it lands. There's no telegraph on those, man. They are straight shots, just like that right hand. Anthony Joshua is a terrific technical fighter. But apart from that, this is what I've loved about what I've seen from AJ. The movement that he showed going on from the Ruiz fight. With Ruiz, he's slow of foot, he's heavy. You're thinking, okay, what's the big deal? Pulev's old too, and to be fair, there was slowing in his feet. He wasn't retreating as quickly as he tends to do. He wasn't moving quite as well, but he's a better mover than Ruiz. And AJ was moving superbly. He was getting Ruiz to overcommit when he was getting Pulev to overcommit, which is what Pulev tends to do to other people, get them to overcommit, lean back, get them to fall short. AJ was doing that to him. Now, he was able to do that because apart from being accurate with the jab and being light on his feet, what he did very, very well was, apart from also mask the shots that were coming through, he was able to never overreach with his shots. He was in control. So what's happened is you've had Dillian White come out in a post-fight interview, and he's criticised Anthony Joshua, and he's basically said, listen, it was a good performance. No, it was a good win, he said. It was a very good finish, but I wasn't that impressed with the performance. And when he explained why, he said, to me, it looked like he was stuck in between styles, and Pulev was there ready to be taken out, and he didn't take him out, and he let him back into the fight. I have to disagree with Dillian White, because if you want to be a quality top level operator at anything you do, you have to be adaptable. Let's take acting, for example, okay? If you want to be the very, very best actor, you can't be typecast. You can't just be a guy that just plays a villain. You want to be a leading man that can play a romantic movie, you can play a comedy, you can play an action film, you can do it all. That's adaptability. Same with music. How many musicians who are great musicians transition and do duets with musicians from other industries and stuff like that? Because they want to be able to do a bit of everything. They want to be creative. They want to be able to adapt. When the music industry changes and one particular style of music is no longer in fashion, they adapt. And that's when you see these artists that go through decades worth of success, and you listen to their old songs and they sound very different to their more recent songs because they've adapted with the times. And this is what Anthony Joshua is capable of doing within a fight now. He can bring it to you. He can hunt you down. He can sit there and he can have a jabbing contest against a master jabber and come out on top. Or he can get on his toes and move around the ring. There's still some work to be done. There were a couple of moments when he was on his toes and Ruiz overcommitted. There was one moment where I keep calling him Ruiz, sorry. I was talking about Ruiz, I keep calling him Ruiz. When Pulev overcommitted with that right hand, and he pivoted out and came to the side. He lost his positioning. So he escaped, but he was right on the side of Ruiz, and he was ready to take a clattering, and he didn't throw a shot. Really, he could have spun off, stepped back in and landed something big. But maybe he was tired and he was just looking to rest. Pulev did come back into the fight. I keep calling him Ruiz, don't I? Bloody hell, man. Sorry. Please be patient with me. It is like 5 a.m. when I'm doing this, so forgive me. But Pulev was... I've lost my trail of thought. What was I saying? So Pulev was coming back into the fight after the first 4 rounds. So from the 5th, 6th round, he started to do a lot better. And to me, it looked like Anthony Joshua gassed a little bit because he put a lot into that. Was it the 3rd or 4th round? Both of them were trying to. It looked like he was trying to potentially take. I think it was the 4th round, trying to take Pulev out there. And when he didn't manage it, he seemed to punch himself out a bit. And Pulev came back and started landing the jab, started landing some good 1-2s. Pulev started to look okay. And Eddie Hearn sort of denied it later when he was asked about it. But he said, oh man, when I saw, the 3rd, 4th round, 5th round, I was thinking, oh no, not now. Sorry, the 5th, 6th, 7th round, I was thinking, oh no, not now. Not this again, sort of thing. And then when he was asked, what did you think he'd lose? He goes, no, it was just all about composure. But you could see it was a bit of a slip of the tongue. Go check out that interview on IFL with Coogan. He was a bit concerned. There was a tiny little bit of a hint that the tide was turning based on the fact that maybe AJ got a little bit tired. But it showed his ability to control the tempo of the fight, even when he was tired. So that is a skill. Now, whether he's going to be able to do that against the Tyson Fury when he's tired, or against the Deontay Wilder if he was tired, or a Dillian White, or an Usyk, or a Povetkin, if Povetkin's able to work his way into a rematch position. That fight ended in the 7th round. Povetkin was 4-2 up. If Anthony Joshua gets tired and it goes to the 8th or 9th round, who knows what happens? These are still top-level fighters. Just because you get the better of someone on one night doesn't mean you then write him off, right? So whether he can then still dictate the tempo against guys who are bigger punchers than Pulev, who are more aggressive, who are hunters by nature, time will tell, right? But the fact of the matter is, we're seeing a real bringing together, a marrying of different styles. I thought it was brilliant. It was wonderful. He knew when to be patient, when to be aggressive. Let me know what you thought of the fight. Pulev's a weird guy, man. Even at the end of the fight, he was still being aggressive. If you go back and watch their exchange at the end of the fight, he's saying, "You remember who I am." Now, if you're a 24-year-old or something, you're saying, "I'm going to come back." I get it. But, what was that about? Is he planning to have another run at the heavyweight title? Good luck to the guy if he does. But I think he's had his day now, Pulev. There's no reason why he should retire. He's still more than capable of being a good level fighter. He's still more than capable of making some money, having some big fights, especially in Bulgaria. He's a star there. But I don't expect Pulev to be back fighting for a world title again, to be honest with you. Let me know what you think about these two guys. How do you rate AJ's performance? Do you rate it as highly as I do, or did you see any issues there? A lot of people, one more thing I'll say, a lot of people, including Peter Fury, were talking about AJ, Froch mentioned this as well, about the jab not being consistent enough. I loved the jab. Now, one of the problems with being consistent with a jab is that you pick up on patterns. And if you're throwing a lot of jabs constantly, someone can read those jabs. One of the things that stopped Pulev from consistently throwing his jab was that beautiful pull counter that AJ threw. He dropped back, little drop of the shoulder, threw the right hand over the top of the jab and hurt Pulev. And when he did that, Pulev became more reluctant. And the other thing that happened, I said Pulev likes his hands out here. They started to come closer to his head around the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. He started to become more concerned about protecting his face. When AJ started to gas, his hands came out a little bit more. Then, obviously, AJ stepped it up again and took care of business. But the point is, AJ wanted the jab in a way to be a little bit unpredictable. He doesn't want to gas himself. He doesn't want to throw jabs constantly all the time so they can get red. He doesn't want Pulev finding a pattern. If you're keeping a guy uncomfortable and you're winning the fight, sometimes you don't need to change what you're doing. You just need to be patient. Let me know what you thought about the fight. I'm going to bring another couple of videos now discussing Hughie Fury, who really impressed me, and Lawrence Okoli, who was also very impressive, albeit against not the best opposition. But let's talk about what happened in those fights too. Thanks for watching. Chat to you soon, and God bless.